Happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome to the housing market buzz. Sorry, I couldn't help it. Sorry. Don't take that the wrong way. I was just having fun. My name is Andy Elliott. I'm a realtor here in Williamson County, Tennessee. I'm with Rodney Wilds, who is a loan officer here, also in Williamson County, Tennessee. This is the housing market buzz. We're just talking about stuff that's interesting to us and what we believe the market it would be interesting. If you're watching, if you're tuning in, you're probably into real estate in some form or fashion. How are you, Rodney?
Fantastic. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. If anybody wants to get a hold of us, our email, text, all that communication, contact information is in the description box, and we'll have it in the description below. So we're easy to catch, and hope to talk to you soon. So, what is going on with love that. What is going on, man? Let's solo with Pip. Got it? Pip. Ding. There it is.
All right. Here
Rates.
you go.
What
You
is
can
going
see that
on,
we're,
man?
Well, here it's let me scroll down and you can see a 6-month view of what the rates have done. And you want to go back over this is today's rate. You want to go back, from start of October is right here where you can see my mouse. And red is bad. Red means the rates are going up. Somewhere around here, the Fed announced their rate cut, if you remember that. And then shortly after that, we got the jobs news, meaning that there was more jobs than they expected. I think the CPI was better than they expected. So we've been on a little bit of a slide here where the mortgage rates have been getting worse. You can see it's 98.8. So it's almost 2 points, 1.5 points worse since you can just kind of call it the time frame of that being the Fed lowering the rate.
Right.
Sorry. And it's not that the Fed lowered the rate and caused this. That's not what happened. It's just a crazy coincidence that we've had some other economic data that, saying that the economy is pretty strong and led us to that versus the rate drop we were expecting after, kind of thought when Fed did it, it was finally the catalyst, the start of a decreasing rate environment. And once again, we were fooled.
Well, and that's what interests me in this is you and I have to deal with the population that responds to this stuff. I mean, because we had, a couple of weeks, everybody was talking for close to a month. If they drop it 0.5 point, life is going to be good. It's I'm sure that, blessings upon your house. It's houses are going to be cheap again and gasoline's going to be $1.50. I mean, we had that kind of talk that everything was going to get fixed with that happen. And then within whatever period of time it was, 2 or 3 weeks, we're back up to right where we were before. I mean, is it any wonder that home buyers, I don't care who you are a little bit shell-shocked or a little bit skittish, timid to get in the market? Does that make sense? I mean, it has to have an emotional effect. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and then just do that on top of the fact that add that into that we're a couple weeks away from an election.
We're going to be talking about that. Yeah, we got that coming up too.
So yeah, I mean, absolutely. Uncertain. You've mentioned it a bunch of times. Uncertainty. When things are not stable, things are not consistent, it creates a lot of uncertainty. And right now you see it. It's a record low number of. I mean, it's pretty quiet right now as far as the industry goes.
Yeah.
You know, compared to what it normally has been.
Yeah. By the way, your background looks just awesome. You look good. I really like that a lot.
Hey man, yeah, finally getting in my home office here. It's I'm not a big work from home guy, but I'm transitioning to that. So my
Hi,
office is
Ange.
coming around.
Didn't mean to interrupt. Just had to say hi to her best bud, Ange from California. Glad to see you. Glad to see you. No, we were just. I do like that's a great background. That's a great background. And then I think that we've got more news coming out tomorrow. Is that tomorrow that the Fed comes out with new numbers? Isn't that tomorrow?
I'm not. Let's see here. I'm not sure what the update is. What is today? I don't even know what today is. The 28th.
It's the 29th today.
Yeah. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
Like I said, welcome to the housing market buzz. What day is it? If anybody's watching us, we're just kidding. Come on. I know it's coming soon. I know it's coming soon, and I think that I heard something today that they're certainly not going to do it to impede or impinge upon an election. So there won't be that going on at the same time. So it's coming soon.
Yeah, the private payroll change tomorrow at 7:15. Gross domestic product, 7:30. Purchase price, gross domestic purchase price index, and then at 9 a.m. pending home sales month over month comes out.
Okay. Well, and we know, I think we have good confidence on what that's going to be. It's going to be down. All right. So enough of that. We'll talk about elections and stuff. Here's the place I'd like to start. And I'm going to hang on.
With all those music instruments, that's the best drum roll you could have come up with?
Yeah, there's no drums in here, Rodney. Those are all guitars. So this is going to be coming from Professor Pendrake. That's what it makes me look smart. Here's what, I've got some people coming in here in a few days. I'm not going to put my hand on the desk because it makes the camera shake. I've got some people come in and they're cash buyers. And I am telling you, we're going to be looking Williamson County, Franklin, Brentwood, Nolensville, that kind of stuff. They are unfazed completely about interest rates, everything. They couldn't care less about the background noise with economics because they're cash buyers. And it's just kind of, if you're a cash buyer, you are really pretty much in a good position in this particular market. Wouldn't you agree with that, or no?
100%. Yes. I mean, yes. Yes.
Yeah. If you can turn your microphone up just a squidge on that, I think there's a knob on there. Just turn it up just a bit. You're
gotcha.
Good. Anyway, so that's who's coming in. But the first thing I wanted to touch on is that home prices are actually falling in these 5 states, and we're going to bring this up. And here's the point: is that if it's getting started someplace, because his first question was this. Sounds like I'm all over the place. It takes me a minute to get my sea legs. One of the things they wanted to know, because they're coming in from New York, they don't know anything about Williamson County. They were thinking about Florida. But what do you think pushed them away from Florida? Other than strong winds and high insurance prices, right? What do you think the number one reason that somebody would move from California? And sorry, New York. What do you think it would be?
Home prices, pricing,
No.
Just your affordability.
The thing that's making them move away from New York is property taxes. This guy.
Property tax.
Yeah, and I've moved a lot of people in from New York. California seems to do pretty good on this, but Chicago, New York, I can't remember Florida anymore, but New York in particular. Whenever somebody calls about there, I says, "Hey, why are you calling?" And then I laugh, and they says, "Because I'm paying $21,000 a year in property taxes in New York. It's extraordinary. We don't have that here. But that's what they're coming in to look at. And the first question they had, just like I would, are what are home prices doing? Right? And I said, it's like everywhere in the country. They're pretty stable, but they're growing slowly. They're not doing that crazy rocket ship thing anymore. So you don't have to feel like you're in a rush. Things are negotiable now. But he asked this question, and I thought it was a good one, was, are prices coming down anytime soon? How would you answer that question, Mr. Wilds?
No, I don't think they are, for the simple fact that our inventory is just continuously too low. And it's only a couple months low, but it's not selling fast enough to where it's driving it down, right? So and there's not enough on the market where it's pushing the price of the houses lower either. So,
yep,
no.
And my answer is the same. It's are they coming down? The answer is no, and I don't want them to come down because that means that there's a fundamental thing going on that we really don't want to talk about. I mean, if prices were to come down, we're talking. I mean, you're more economist than I am, but I mean, at least recession would be in the conversation, something like that. But there are places in the country where prices are coming down. And the thing that we learned about that I got beat up pretty good about in New York was that government money, that stolen money buying luxury places in New York. I got beat up pretty good about that. But we've got several states. Let me just kind of dig into this article a little bit, where the prices are coming down. If you've been watching the housing market, you've likely noticed a shift. Home prices, which seem to be on a never-ending upward trajectory, are now beginning to drop in certain states, according to data from Zillow. Zillow's great. They're great on data. U.S. home prices fell by 0.03 month over month between July and August. That's pretty broad across the country. Local real estate is local, but still a drop for the entire country is sending signals. A modest decline, but significant given that prices usually increase during this time of year. I thought that was an interesting observation. Well, we're a little bit past that, but what is normally happening in the springs, the summer season for you guys? You're tricking along pretty good, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
In terms of business.
Yeah, spring. It's the same. Obviously we follow the housing market. Spring, even vacations around here we follow. So.
Yep. Yeah. And spring is busy. Summer typically stays pretty solid. Not that rocket ship stuff, but it stays pretty solid. That really hasn't been the case this year. Home sales are at like a 14, 15 year low. There's sort of some records being broken, not ones that I love. With affordability issues keeping buyer on the sidelines, inventory is building up. We've got more houses on the market, and I actually had, here we go. Here's a couple of things to look at. Now, this is local stuff, but that's what we have to go by here locally. And I'm going to pull that in because Ange gets mad at me. There we go. Inventory is up. Closings are down 15%. Now this is in Davidson County. And so we're tracking along just like everybody else. Things are slower than really what we want, but that's just the shape of the market right now. As a result, homes are sitting on the market longer and sellers are adjusting their prices to attract home buyers. Now remember, in my opinion, I think Rodney probably runs the same way. The main reason for people selling homes would be what, Rodney?
Right now, I'd say they have to move.
Yep.
I mean, it's not I just want to move down the street. It's typically the job or they need to move, family size or something.
Yep. Relationship change, upsize, downsize, maybe. And I would say upsize if you're gaining family members through in-laws, parents, or kids. That would be a have to move. Job changes, things like that. Those are the main people that are moving these days. But as a result, homes are sitting on the market longer and sellers are having to adjust those prices. That's where price reductions come down. Now, there's a difference between, because I think headlines sometimes elicit the response of prices are coming down, when in fact what's actually happening is somebody priced too high to begin with, and then they had to lower the price to get attraction in a normal, what we're going to call a normal market. They had to lower the price to do that. That's not prices coming down. That's adjusting to where it's saleable. There's a world of difference on that. But here's some of the states that I thought was interesting. Tell me if there's anything that surprised you. Number one on the list, and I don't know that these are in a particular order. Texas, a long hot spot for buyers seeking more space and affordable living. Talk about Elon Musk. Talk about California. Talk about people moving that way, even from Arizona going to Texas. I think property taxes are pretty high in Texas, but apparently home prices are not. I guess that's the case. But during the pandemic, Texas saw a massive influx of new residents, which drove up prices sharply. God, did we go through that during the 2019 and 22? Jeez Louise. But as of mid-2024, inventory has surpassed pre-pandemic levels and the market is now experiencing some corrections. That was one of the hottest markets. Agents were literally selling houses within 2 hours to take a listing, cardboard sign in the yard, literally, and getting it done. Well, now that's just not the case. In fact, Austin housing market, which was one of the fastest growing during the pandemic, has seen home prices decline over the past few months. Now, in that particular case, you could make an argument that those are actual price reductions relative to a year ago. Wouldn't that be right?
Yes.
Okay. Am I boring you? Active inventory.
No, I agree.
Active inventory is rising. Buyers have more options, so prices are slowly decreasing to balance out that demand. In July 24, Texas prices experienced a 2% month-over-month decline, which isn't a ton, but it's some. The shift from the steady growth observed over the last few years. Florida, let's talk about Florida. Florida housing market also softened, particularly in the condo segment. Geez Louise. After the Surfside condo collapse in 21, new regulations were implemented, slowing condo sales. Can you imagine? Well, and I'm not laughing because it's funny, but can you imagine having a condo for sale and then that stuff takes place? Jeez. For people looking, what's the question going to be? Have you had this inspected recently?
It's difficult for condos right now. The new guidelines are very difficult for normal condos that have been approved in the past are giving us problems right now.
And is that the case here too?
It's not
are you
very
saying?
good in the condo. Is it what now?
Is that the same thing going on here? Are you saying, or is it mostly down there?
All across the country.
Got it. Okay.
All condos.
Well, Florida, the condo market in particular, has been hit by a wave of caution. I think hurricanes and insurance prices for sure. And that's what that guy said. We were going to go to Florida, but with those two things, hey, Tennessee seemed like a good middle ground, and it's
Yes.
and it is, I mean, we're only 6 hours away from Florida, so it's a good vacation spot. Anyway, so home prices in Florida were down 0.5% compared to last year. So Arizona, that's taken a real beating. This one shocked me. Arizona in particular, the Phoenix area, that was super hot. I know agents out there, same story, cardboard sign in the yard, stuff was selling overnight. I mean, if not sooner. As a result, because of things slowing down, inventory levels are increasing. Builders are offering incentives like mortgage rate buydowns, which builders are tough. If you've got a single family dwelling, sell it as a seller, a regular homeowner, and you're trying to compete with a builder, that can be tough because they've got usually the pocketbook to finance things like upgrades, and they can sweeten the deal relatively easily, So when somebody's trying to sell a house here and they're thinking about going on the market and there's a builder in that same development, I just warn them up ahead of time. It's going to be a tough slog because people
You
that
know,
are
one
looking
good
at,
point about today is that you can maybe if you've had your home for several years, it might be a little larger than the ones and a little bit more amenities, even though it's not brand new. You know how they've been building smaller for the last several years.
yep, yeah, yeah. The thing, what I have found over the years, what has happened probably more than once was when there was some places like Cherry Grove down there in Spring Hill, nice place, you know. Um,
Hmm.
we sold a bunch of houses down there, and while we were selling them, we were selling houses. These people had to move out of state. There was a builder still in that subdivision, still working on it. And what had happened to us was we'd have buyers come in that were just really interested, you know, because you always ask for feedback when you have a listing. You call and you communicate with them. What's the feedback? Oh, I love the house. And then 2 days later, you check in. Hey, how you feeling? Oh man, they went down to the builder because they've got those. They're all they're like a magnet. And I think what sometimes it gets people is it's brand new. It's guaranteed for a year, or warranted anyway.
Hmm.
But
Yes.
we had that happen more at once. So I told people that if you want to sell it, you got to be kind of aggressive if you're in that circumstance. But Arizona, because of all the changes going on, they dropped 4.8% year over year 4.8% in terms of pricing. That's a bunch, in my view. That's a bunch.
Yes.
Louisiana, I never even knew that. Louisiana surprised me because it was not one of those pandemic hotspots. I don't. Did you ever hear that it was?
No, I agree with that. It never was like it was the hottest area around. It
Mm-mm.
never became that.
But those housing prices are dropping, and it seems like it was a zero point 0.6 month over month decline, which is 13.7 drop since 22. Which who cares? I mean, that's ancient history now at this point. And but a 4.6% decrease year over year. I'll come back to that in just a second. Now, Colorado is the final one on the list. We're almost done with this. The Colorado housing market, which I'm familiar with. I raised a family out there. I lived in Colorado over 30 years. Loved it. Just I kind of miss it really. But Colorado housing market is cooling off, especially in Denver. It was another one of those hot spots, just insane hot spots, which Denver deserves that. Pikes Peak and the Great Divide, those are pretty easy products to sell. If people are looking, it's like if you're not from the mountains and you drive out there and you go, look at those, that's a pretty picture. It's I got to live by those mountains. But prices dropped 1.8% year over year in August. That's after a post-pandemic boom drove prices up fast. Fewer homes are selling too. Here's a number for you. 7161 was past August. That's how many sold compared to 7272 the year before. So both buyers and sellers are paying closer attention to the details as every deal now counts more in the measured market. So they're slowing down too. Here's my point and the reason I brought up this particular article. Tell me if you agree. The fact that any state, pandemic notwithstanding, because that's pretty much, in my view, not ancient history, but it's getting close to it. Wouldn't you say, the COVID and all that kind of stuff?
Yes,
I
100%.
mean, it is. And the fact that housing in some places in the country are starting to moderate and come down, doesn't that signal to you that that could become a more general trend? Does that seem reasonable to you?
It it does right now because of the rates. I think the rates are driving more of it than a lot of it, or most of the things. I think if the rates fell instead of went the other way, these cities probably wouldn't be going backwards. I don't think it's that big of an adjustment like from our post pandemic. I think it's more due to the rates than it's in affordability than anything.
Right. Well, And I think, well, something's got to give at some point. I mean, if a large number of people can't buy, or it's something's got to give, and it's going to be in the price. That's what it's going to be. Because if how about it? How are your predictions these days on where you think mortgage rates are going to be? Just say through July of next year. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I still believe that we could be, in the mid to low sixes by July of next year. I think this is
Here to
an
stay.
anomaly. I think after the election, the rates will start coming down, and we'll start seeing a little bit more consistent pattern. Hopefully.
Yeah, I'm telling you that the 7% thing surprised me. I mean, I who knows?
I
Nobody.
mean, it did. I mean, it just actually felt like the kickstart of our rate drop era. You know what I'm saying? With the Fed pointing that way and doing a half point cut, and then the mortgage rates and the bond turn around and do the opposite. Is of
Yeah,
course, what a fitting. Why didn't we expect that?
I. It's it's like head fake. Psych. You thought good news was coming, didn't you? Ah.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about this. We could talk about this one. The next topic I want to talk about is, since prices, they're not dropping like rocks in those some states where there's some moderation, and I think Rodney and I agree that as a general rule, homes aren't going to drop in prices significantly. That's not going to happen. I don't believe, but I'm an idiot. The next thing that we can do is, and this is according to the NAR settlement, which, yes, we're bringing it up, and there's going to be, I'm not going to mention any numbers or anything like that because, excuse me, I don't know what the rules are. I'm pretty sure there's rules on numbers and stuff that you can't even talk about. It collusion. I don't want to get involved in that. But there's an article, and I'll leave the link. It's how to negotiate with your real estate agent, which if you're dealing with somebody that you don't know, if you're thinking about listing your house, or if you're getting ready to buy a house, you're going to be faced with negotiations in a whole different way when it comes to real estate. I'll show you this picture. I thought this was pretty good. Yeah, let me sell your house for you. I thought that was pretty good. So, buying a home is expensive, from the initial down payment to closing costs, but negotiating a lower commission could make more affordable mortgage payments. And I think Rodney and I talked about this before. Do you see commission expenses in the sum total of a home purchase, to be that significant when it comes to mortgage payments and stuff like that? Do you see that as
Say that
impactful?
again. I apologize. We cut out a little bit there. I
Yeah.
think my internet.
Yeah, it's okay. It's balancing out. The question was, and I think that you've addressed this before, that commission expenses relative to the total cost on buying a home, getting a break on commission expenses, do you think it makes that much of a difference in the overall mortgage payments, so to speak?
Not that was there was kind of a weird comparison. It's like trying to compare, buying your pasta and your pasta sauce. They're two different things, right? One's a cost. Uh, you know what I'm saying? In the mortgage, the correlation is saying if you save $10,000 with your real estate agent fees, that's what it would save you off your mortgage. Um, but I would see it more of it, you know, they don't get the mortgage if they're paying that or something. If that makes sense, it's more of making the deal work than it is um,
It's a tough
saving them that money on the deal.
it's a it's a tough topic. And that's why I thought, well, I just put my face in the strike zone and have a conversation about it, because what's so different now is if you're getting ready to list your house and sell your house, your commission, it has always been negotiable, but now there's this glaring spotlight that's on it, and you can have the options are now so clear, or they should be, which is the point of me talking about this article. Is first thing I want you to know is if you're a buyer or a seller, all these commission things are negotiable. Don't be afraid to try. There's only 16,000 agents where you live or close by. If it doesn't work out with somebody, pretty sure there's somebody else that can take care of you just as well. And I'm not saying anti-agent or I'm not plus or minus on anything. At some point, you just got to accept the way things are, and that's it. I mean, the real estate commissions are negotiable, and I'm not trying to dance away from anything. Nationally, Americans pay about $100 billion in real estate commissions every year, and agents, they have pretty high standards. That's just the truth. Before the court case, before this NAR settlement, many full-service agents, and that's where it's going to be the difference, in Minnesota in this particular case, charged a certain percentage. We'll call it a certain percentage. See, this is where I get into I don't know what to do. Paid to the listener, who split it among the different to their other agent. That's the way it used to be. The seller would pay the listing broker, and the broker would pay the other buyer agent on the other side. That's what it used to be. It can still work that way, but it's not required. There's 3 ways you can get paid. That way is one. The seller pays the listing broker, the broker shares with the buyer agent. The second way is the seller can pay the buyer agent when they come in, when they bring a buyer to the house. The third way is the buyer pays the buyer agent. And that's where things start getting confusing for people. And the thing that I would tell you, if you're watching this, hopefully as a replay, learn about the NAR settlement, what it means, but don't be afraid to just ask. If somebody's going to list your house, they're going to start with a certain number. Ask them if you can negotiate on that. Ask them how you want to handle that, because the NAR settlement for me has done something that it's an interesting thing. As a listing agent, if I was selling your house, Rodney, my job, fiduciary, my responsibility is to get you the best deal and the most returns on your house, period. It's to have the smoothest transaction with the best returns, meaning the most net.
Right.
Period. Right. That's my ethical duty as a realtor. That changes the dynamics when you can have a buyer agent. Let's say that you and I did that and we didn't offer anything to the buyer agent. We make them work it out with the buyer, or make them ask. We could make the buyer ask us for commission. If you were selling, I'm going to make this up. If you were selling $1 million house and you could save 1%, 30% on a commission, that'd be significant dollars. Would you be on board with that or not?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, as a seller, I want to make as much money as I can. I mean, that's
as you can. And everybody's still happy. Everybody comes to the closing table still happy. In other words, we used to call that leaving money on the table. That, and like Terry always said, if you're too stupid to ask for the money, you're not going to get it anyway. That was just Terry. Yeah. I was like, I was driving about that all the way home. How stupid am I? Trying to figure that out. So the first lesson I'm trying to teach you is that when somebody's getting ready to list your house, ask them if they're willing to negotiate. Ask them to explain, do you have to commit to X amount of percent to the other side, or can you have them just ask the buyer agent to put it in the offer? Which at first I was a real doubting person about that until I did it a couple of times. I was like, that is the right way to do it, for the client's benefit. Because where they are, there's this, it's for the client's benefit, period. End of story. Do your research. When you start getting into this thing, here's the thing that's going to hold a lot of people back. Look up about the NAR settlement and what it means to, and I guess I can announce a little bit this here. I'm working on a real estate course. It's not going to be it's not a YouTube video. It's going to be an actual course that I'm putting together that will be for sale here in the near future. It's going to explain the NAR settlement and what it means to buyers and sellers specifically. It's going to be an 8-module course, and it's for anybody that wants to learn about it. It's going to be very inexpensive, but it's going to be filled with information on what to do. But what I'm trying to tell you is, do your research about what the NAR settlement means. Because if you don't ask, you won't know. I don't know how else to say that. What am I missing here, Rodney? What am I missing?
No, I thought it was. I thought you and the Terry and the article summed it up pretty good. You know how you deal with real estate commissions.
Yep. Results from the lending tree. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I said you just ask. It's pretty simple. You just have a discussion about it with your real estate agent, and it's that's how you work it out. But it's been like that forever. But now it's just like you said, a glaring spotlight on it.
It's a spotlight. They did a survey, and I thought this was interesting. The results. It was lending tree. That's an aggregate that we don't need to talk about lending tree, but they did a survey, and they're significant. And they showed that while only 31% of home buyers or sellers attempted to negotiate commissions, 64% of those who asked successfully reduced fees. Now, the big message in there is your agent may not be very good at negotiating their own fee. And I'm sorry, but that's how that happens. The results published February showed that 36% of respondents said they didn't know that they could negotiate. I'm telling you, loud and clear, underlined, highlighted, you can negotiate. So at least give it a try. Now listen, when you do that, is there a chance that there's going to be realtors, agents, perhaps even like myself, that you would try to negotiate so staunchly, so tough, that they're going to go, find somebody else? You bet there's a chance of that. But like I said, there's only 16,000 others, and it sounds like I'm beating up on my own industry. I'm not. This is pro-consumer. And Rodney, you said this weeks ago, that's what the NAR settlement is all about. It's pro-consumer flat out. I think I'm still on track with that. It said about 63% of Americans believe real estate agent fees of X% are typical. You can fill in the blanks probably. And sellers are negotiate with agents according to the survey, but it might be different in your city. There's truth to that. I know in Tennessee, when we were talking about how businesses run and how things operate, there's a difference between Middle Tennessee and Chattanooga, for example. There's just, they run railroads a different way. So you have to figure out what's going on local. If everybody thinks it's X%, that's never existed, and it doesn't. It's just assumptions. So when you get ready to do that, make sure that you talk to people in your area. Have you ever known that to be different in different areas, Rodney, or are you just like most have been focused here?
It's I like how I think it generally ties to the market overall. Like, if the if the market's blowing and going, you might can get a better deal, but if it's either way, like if they've only got a few deals in that area, like right now,
Yep.
I would think everybody would be willing to negotiate right now in some markets, especially like the 5 we had earlier: Texas, Louisiana, Florida, Arizona, Colorado.
Yep.
So,
yep. And the next thing to talk to them about, and we're almost done with this. I don't want to. It sounds like I said, it sounds like I'm beating up on my own industry. I'm not. This is just I don't know how else to be transparent other than telling you, a little bit of behind the scenes on how you as a consumer can get a better deal. So, I'm okay with that. Talk about the services they offer. Now we're going to talk about both sides of this real quick. On the listing side, talk about when they talk about X% and that kind of stuff, you can say, what are we going to get? When you get a listing presentation, they're going to tell you what all they're going to get. Be aware, there's a lot of stuff they're going to put on there, in my opinion, that doesn't work. It's like there'll be a lot of emphasis on social media and drone work and stuff like that. I'm going to tell you, and I learned this from the best. That stuff is easy to sell, meaning you can make social media look super important to the sale of a house. And you can make drone work look, man, you make that listing look really, really good. It makes it look pretty splashy. But here's the truth. When it comes to the sale of a house, all you need is a motivated buyer and the price being correct and the house in good condition. Because buying a house, this is my opinion, tell me if I'm wrong, Rodney, is that buying a house for most people is an intentional act. They're not going to be like going through their Instagram feed. God, look at this, honey, look, did you see this mansion by the water? That's not how houses are sold. If you make a house look pretty, good pictures, it's well put together, classic, the curb appeal is really good, the inside's clean and sparse, and the price is right compared to the neighborhood, you're going to sell the house. Now, in this slower market, it's going to take a minute longer. So don't think that not having the drone shot is the reason it's not selling. I've never ever had anybody buy or sell a house that said, you ask them what turned you on about the house? Oh, it's that drone shot. Those roofs, oh man. That pool in the backyard was just, I had to have that, Never, that's never happened, It's never. So talk about those services. See which ones that you really need. And that's going to be your tool to negotiate better. And that's on both sides. Because now when you get a buying agent, you have to sign a contract before you start touring homes. And you got to figure out what it is that you need to buy a house effectively. And you can only do that if you've done your research and know what you're in for. The final part of this really boils down to, there's a lot of people that go for sale by owner, right? What's the percentage of that? 35% try it, I think. Isn't that right? For sale
Was
by
it that
owner?
high? I thought it was like 16 or something, but you may be right.
Well, that try it, but that succeed, only like 10% of those that try actually succeed for sale by owner. Most everybody I know thinks about it,
Yeah.
But then,
Oh, yeah.
but I mean, why wouldn't you? This is America. You can try it, but just think long and hard before you do that. You got lots of options. The whole point is, this article was how to negotiate with your real estate agent. My point on reading the article is just try. If getting a deal is important to you, just try it. I mean, the worst they can say is no, and you can move on to somebody else, or that you come to some agreement where everybody's happy. God bless America. So we're all good with that. I think that's fair. Do you think that's a fair article to bring to people, Rodney?
Absolutely. I really like honestly, you didn't, after I read number one, I was like, you really just don't need to go any further. Like, you should just have a conversation with your real estate professional. You're doing the same thing with your mortgage professional. You do the same thing with your insurance professional. You call and, you even if it's simple as, this the best deal I can get, or however you want to phrase it. Absolutely. You just have the conversation about, if that's important to you. Now, if you know the system, and you think that fee is fair, then you don't have to. Like, if it's a hard property to sell, or they're doing other hooking you up with some other contacts or something like that, you may not want to negotiate it. Just depends on the full deal for you.
Yeah, yeah. And because in the end, the reason I included in our show today, and I always clear everything with Rodney. I always do that. So, but the reason I thought it was important is because I'm a consumer too, and I do that with when I'm looking for cars. There's some people on the show that buy cars differently. I tend to try to bargain. He may too, but I'm a consumer too, and this is just a new day, and it's I know what I'm worth, and if we were to talk about buying and selling houses, I'll let you know. It's pretty much that. It's simple that way. So let's see. Got a couple of minutes. Should we tear into one of the two last articles?
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay, we'll just go in order. So sales of existing homes dropped. This is a big deal. God. Sales of existing homes drops to a 14-year low as election uncertainty looms. I was almost going to bring up, I think this article, was it this? Oh, yeah. Some articles sort of tip their hand on where they are politically. This would be one. And that's okay. But sales of previously owned homes dropped to a 14-year low. Let's look at this. I want to show you something. Fred, let's see. New homes, no. Fred, this one, that's 3.8 million. This is annual summary. There it is, this one. That's how many houses they expect to be sold if you were to do it annually. 3.8, it's not a number there, but it's 3.8. And we're normally, I'll bring this up this way. Bing, do this, bring that, bring this. There it goes. Normally, come on. There it is. You can see 6.6 was January of 2021. Kind of a hot market then. Now we're down to 3.8. I'm going to tell you that, my friend, is slow going. That is slow. Total existing home sales dropped 1% from August to a seasonally adjusted, there's the term I was looking for, couldn't find it, annual rate of 3.8. In September, the National Association of Realtors reported on Wednesday the September sales figure, which excludes new construction, interesting, that rose to 780,000, represented a 3.5% drop from a year ago and was the lowest monthly sales pace since 2010. What was going on then? 2010, let's say in the middle of a Great Recession. Are we there? Did I lose you?
Yeah, the 20, goodness gracious. No, I was just thinking the point, what was it, 0.6 year over year? Going back to 2010 is kind of crazy, but what was the year over year?
I don't know. I've moved on. I didn't see that.
Okay.
I've moved on. Despite fall in sales, median home prices continued to rise last month, increasing 3% from September 23, this is national, to 404 national. It's marked the 15th consecutive month of year-over-year price increases. As tough as the market gets, people keep saying, our price is going to go up. They insist on it. We talked about prices dropping in some places, special circumstances, hot pandemic places. NAR Chief Lawrence Yoon said that the home sales have remained essentially stuck near a 4 million pace for the last 12 months, I would argue the last couple of years, despite recent developments of factors that are usually favorable to buyers. There's more inventory choices for consumers, which is true. When we look at inventory on total inventory locally in our market, inventory is up a little bit. People have more choices, but they have more choices of homes they can't afford because of the rates. That's the problem. Continued job additions. Perhaps some consumers are hesitating about moving forward with major expenditures like purchasing a home before the upcoming election. Let's just pound on that for a minute.
Yes.
With promise, I'm going to read this. I'm not planting my flag anyplace. I think is fairly obvious, but I'm not. With the election less than 2 weeks away, polling continues to show an incredibly tight race between Harris and Trump. Both candidates have proposed measures to benefit homebuyers, with Harris vowing $25,000 federal down payment subsidy for first-time buyers. Who's paying for that? No, I'm going to get off that. And Trump promising to somehow lower mortgage rates. This factor is normally outside of the president's control. There's a little bit of hand tipping going on, in my opinion. Did you read it that way, Rodney?
Yes. Unfortunately, they can't control it. That is something that, the president won't be able to control the mortgage rates.
No, that's absolutely true. But anyway, home buying is clearly a major decision. We know the country's in a polarized state. I'd have to sadly agree with that. Maybe people are just waiting to see the result of the election before making a major decision like home buying or home selling decisions. Mortgage rates averaged 6.8% in September, their lowest level in 2 years. This is a current article too, according to Freddie Mac, but further declines following the Federal Reserve's widely anticipated reduction to its benchmark rate in mid-September have yet to materialize. Boy, ain't that the truth. Rates have ticked up each of the past 3 weeks. While lower mortgage rates are widely anticipated by home shoppers, underline that, reality has not played out as expected. And that's Danielle Hale. She's just really good. She tends to put Realtor.com. Her and you tend to put a positive spin. We kind of make fun of them, but they're advocating for the industry, so they're going to be a positive spin. She says that higher mortgage rates in an environment when many homeowners have record levels of equity and more favorable rates from older mortgages have created a conundrum for the housing market with far fewer people buying and selling homes. It's that lock-in thing. And pretty soon, maybe you don't see this, but unlike the buyers that I have come into town, those people, they're intentional. They're going to get down here and they're going to see the kind of house they can get. They're going to be excited, and chances are pretty good that they'll buy just because it's the right time for them. For anybody that's on the fence, we're about 2 weeks away from, let's get past Christmas. I mean,
yeah. You're a Halloween decoration away from let's get through the first of the year.
You're a pumpkin away from Thanksgiving, and then when it's Thanksgiving, that's at Christmas and New Year's, and golly. The supply of, let's make sure we've got that. According to NAR, the supply of unsold existing homes rose by 1.5% from the prior month to 1.39 at the end of September. Now, you know what the local, get this, you know what the market, what the market supply is? The housing supply, months of supply in Davidson County is right now? I'm looking at it with all houses. Any guesses?
4.2.
Really close. It's actually 5.36. 5.36
Okay.
months. And they say 6 months is a balance point.
Right.
That's what they say. And that's where buyers and sellers aren't at either in unfair advantage. In Davidson County, we're at over 5 months. It's been at 1.2 forever, Think how many things ain't changed. So at the current sales pace, that's the equivalent of 4.3 nationwide, well below the 6-month supply that economists say represents a balanced market. Well below? It's not well below. That's pretty freaking close, if you ask me. That seems like.
Yeah, it's getting closer and closer. Our inventory is not becoming the issue. Not in all markets, but inventory is increasing, which has been good. That's been a positive sign for us for a while.
Except for still the supply of unsold homes is up 23% from a year earlier. More inventory is certainly good news for home buyers. It gives consumers more properties to view. It really does that. and it puts downward pressure on properties. You can negotiate better. The bottom line, and where we tend to not end up, but I think the argument that I know that I lobby for, and I know Rodney talks about, is first-time home buyers. Those are the ones that tend to feel a little bit beat up, with this whole market. And the point is, when you have home buyers and home sellers that have a piece of property that they can sell and take advantage of that equity to make their best move, or the next move in any way they can, they're at a tremendous advantage versus somebody that's just getting started. First-time buyers it's tough. Okay. First-time buyers are responsible for a minute. Sorry, go ahead.
I said it has been for a minute on the first-time home buyers. They've gotten a little reprieve, and the only reprieve they didn't get they got still high prices and high interest rates, but at least they've gotten to negotiate and get in the game over the last, and sellers would entertain paying some closing costs and things like that to make a deal work with the first-time home buyer, because when the properties are moving off the shelf really quick, they don't entertain, you know how fast those things went by the wayside. So
yeah. And that makes me jump back a little bit. Not that I'm actually going to jump back, but back to negotiating with your agent. As a first-time buyer, don't be afraid to talk about that. You have to be clear, especially with, I'm going to call it the new rules. It's just the new approach. It's the rules. Well, they are new rules, I guess. I'd have to think about how to phrase that. But with the new day in real estate, if you're a first-time buyer, you've got an additional consideration, and that is negotiating for that buyer agent commission. And if it becomes an issue, you have to. And hopefully you can talk to somebody that's your advocate that will help you make a good, solid decision on that. That would be really good, so that somebody's not trying to sell you. But anyway, just a couple of percentage notifications in this article I thought was interesting. First-time buyers are responsible for 26% of sales in September. That's recently down from 27% a year ago. But it used to be where first-time buyers were averaging about 38% of the market. It's just high prices, high interest rates. And now we've got this election has always seemed to just throws a wrench in the works for a minute, because I bet you that there's people, you tell me if I'm wrong about this, they're waiting to see if the candidate who's offering $25,000 gets into office, and if they can't make that happen. I bet that there's people that are factoring that into their home buying decision. Would you think?
I haven't thought about that, but there probably is. Across the country, I'm sure there are. I don't know if I would ever put much stock in any political, rhetoric going on during an election from either candidate. Like, I wouldn't be putting that in my bank account, so to speak.
I agree. I agree.
I wouldn't, even if they're talking about, if candidate A is talking about lowering taxes for my tax bracket, I'm not thinking that, if it happens, whatever they're promising during this part of time would be a blessing.
Yeah. I would tell you though, and I'll bet you get this kind of stuff all the time, but generally speaking, it's the real estate agent or realtor that gets that first call from a would-be home buyer, typically. We want them to talk to lenders first. Let's get that cleared up first, but usually it's agents that get the call, because people will call me all the time, and I'll say, if you talk to a lender and they go, oh, it's not time for that yet. They feel like that's way too serious, but we're the ones that get the questions like I just posed to you, which it may seem silly, that you're banking on that, but don't think that kind of stuff doesn't come up in the conversation.
Yeah, I would. Yes, I'm sure it does, but it's yes, anything that's so far from being a you know, even if I'm supporting that, right? If I'm support that candidate and support that that'll actually happen, man, that's got. I don't know what all they got to do to get that. First, the money's got to come from somewhere. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
um,
You know,
yes, if they are, they're probably putting themselves up. They what they need to do is talk to a mortgage or a real estate professional and see what they can do now, because it's
without it.
easy to
Yeah.
get in for a zero down or a very modest low down payment loan. So, I mean,
I, t-
they're all across the country. So, um, yeah, I wouldn't be but waiting on that.
I tell you what. I tell you what it is that it what it reminds me of. And you and I both went through this, but I remember it's the pointy end of the stick, which is, I think, where realtors are, generally speaking, at the pointy end. Do you remember the time when there was the rebate of $7,500,
Hmm.
and then for a period of time they went, "We can do better than that. It's 15,000 now." Remember that?
I don't remember them all, but I do remember that there's been a few, and then we've had some in our state as well that paired up with THDA.
Yeah,
Um,
but I mean, but it was being like screamed from the rooftop, $7,500. I mean,
yeah,
and then it was $8,500. And every here's why I bring that up. What I remember specifically is, I mean, it was a different time in my career, and it was just a different world back then. But we had a pipeline full of people, that's prospects as they're moving along, and they were good to go with the 7,500. And as soon as they announced it was 8,500, everybody goes, wait. How do we get that? How do we get that 8,500? And you go, well, and then you have to retool,
yeah,
and then they brought up that $15,000, and the whole group goes, wait, how do we get that 15 grand? I don't know. They just, we heard it on the news at the same time. I don't know.
yes,
Let me call the lender. Jesus. I'm just saying, when somebody
yeah,
professes to change the rules, I don't care if it's a candidate or whoever, everybody goes, what? How can I benefit from that? I'm exhausted. Quite a day. Well, any final thoughts, Rodney? Nothing? I got, I think I probably steamrolled you today. You have any final words there, buddy? Nothing? I think you can't hear
No.
me.
I think that that one article did. I did a. Can you hear me now?
I can. Yes.
Um, thought that last article did a good job of coming up with a new name for golden handcuffs or lock-in effect with conundrum. But other than that, no other thoughts.
Sounds like a basketball team. The Oakland Conundrums. I like it. All right.
Yeah. I mean, I thought, yeah, there you're in a and it's a little opposite of the way your buyers are with cash buyers. They're not in a conundrum. You
No,
know, they have got cash. They're in a good spot, so they get the pick of the litter of the house. So it's pretty good.
they do. And with sellers having to wait a little longer, having a cash purchase with all the things that brings is generally a good thing. So I have had it for today. Any final thoughts? Any other things you want to share before we go?
That's it. Have a good one.
Okay. All right, buddy. Hey, listen, everybody. Thanks for stopping by. Ange, we'll see. I'd love to you let me know when you're coming out here. We'll get something figured out for you. So we'll talk to y'all later. Bye bye.